Well, hello, boys and girls. It's Steve, and it's story time. So I'm here tonight. It is almost 1 in the morning. Was December 13th. Now it is December 14th because clock rolls over at midnight. I have been working all night because as much as I would like for Twitter impressions to pay the rent, nobody knows how the algorithm works and whether monetization is going to be 20 bucks or 20,000. So I have had over 40 million, probably closer to 45, 46 million. I think it was about 46 million impressions in the last 24 hours on the threads that I've been doing on the New Jersey drones. And that's what we're here to talk about tonight, is just a little WTF update on the New Jersey drone situation. It's been a weird couple of days. The post that I did went viral, as I mentioned. Did not expect that to happen, but they did. And it's kind of cool, actually. And the whole reason why they went viral is because there's an information vacuum out there. And I just try to fill it by collating a bunch of different disparate information that people are having to find piecemeal all around the internet and putting it all in one place. So that's what I did. And, tonight I was thinking about it, driving around, doing my Uber Eats side gig that I do at night for extra money. And there were no drones in the skies here in Raleigh, North Carolina, but they seem to be appearing all over the country. New Jersey is still the hotspot, and nobody knows why. But the weirder thing is that nobody knows what the hell these drones are. Tonight, I watched a news report. It was a police video. Well, no, it wasn't a police video. It was a news report that included an interview with the sheriff's department. I think it was Morris County in New Jersey. And they've been trying to intercept these things and figure out what they are, because obviously they're getting a ton of complaints from the locals, as one does. When you have strange alien drones flying over your house that are the size of a car, making noise all night and shining lights and who knows, spraying who knows what, because some of them appear to be spraying things. Actually, it was an interesting little bit today. I saw a brief little news report. I think it was from the Insider, which is kind of like it's a national publication that has little local outlets for each individual town and city and whatever. Anyway, they said something about how residents in the area were complaining about irritated eyes and noses, and that's not a fun thing when you see video of drones looking like they're spraying stuff in the night sky. So who knows what kind of weird nanobots or zombie virus got sprayed. Yes, I'm being facetious, but honestly, we don't know. We just don't know what it was. And so you might as well imagine the worst, because then whatever it is actually winds up being better. I'm going to have a little sip of my cider. Yeah, an adult beverage to lubricate the drone storytelling. But anyway, this news report, the sheriff's office has like an interceptor drone. It's big. I don't know what it is. I don't know what they use for law enforcement. It's bigger than any of the DJI drones that I've seen. It looked like it was about 4 feet across, quadcopter drone, dark gray, kind of like an industrial grade law enforcement drone. So they send these things up and they're trying to look at the drones that are in the sky, and they can't, because they have no heat signature. Like, what's that about, right? So they're up there for hours and hours. They're probably not battery powered. Batteries do produce heat, but it can be offset. The air is cold, but batteries don't last that long. So if these drones are up there for hours, they have to have an alternative power supply. And one assumes that that's probably, if they're man-made drones, that it's some kind of fossil fuel, gasoline, diesel. I don't know. I don't know what these things can run on. But they have no heat signature. And apparently these drones, can do the whole thermal thing. It's not working. And then, excuse me, bumping the microphone. Then when they try to approach them, they just take off. Can't catch them. Their drones are not fast enough to catch them. One of the officers said that 50 of these things came off the ocean and made their way inland. He saw it. How are they coming off the ocean? Where are they coming from? Is there a submarine out there that's just like surfacing and launching these things? Like, what's going on? The story just keeps getting weirder. And the weirdest thing to me is the response, or I should say the lack thereof, of the federal government. John Kirby, who's one of the White House spokesmen, just basically was like, yeah, it's mass hysteria. There's no drones. We can't find any evidence that there's any drones up there. Meanwhile, everybody's out there saying that they're flying overhead. In fact, last night, I was talking to a guy who's one of my mutuals on Twitter, or the platform formerly known as Twitter. And he was just saying, you know what, I haven't seen any of these. I live in the area, whatever. He was asking me questions about them because I knew more about it than him. And then he's like, well, I got to get offline. So maybe I'll talk to you tomorrow. And then he's back 20 minutes later. And he's like, I went outside and there were 2 of them over my house. And it was the wildest thing. They weren't making any noise. One was circling. The other one was higher altitude. I got my sister. She came out and looked to make sure I wasn't going crazy. No, they were there. He's like, I'm 20 minutes south of Philadelphia. The number of people that are seeing these things over their homes in quantity, like it's not 1 drone, it's 5 drones or 6 drones. The former governor of Maryland, Larry Hogan, tweeted out tonight that they're flying over his property in Maryland, and he's getting kind of fed up. He's like, the federal response is insufficient for this. The Pentagon has said they're not ours. They're not our military drones. They also said they are not the drones of any known foreign entity or adversary. What options does that leave? Are they private? Is that what they're trying to say? That maybe they belong to a defense contractor? Do defense contractors routinely test secret advanced technology or weapons platforms where everybody can photograph and film it? Just hanging low and slow with big, pretty Christmas lights on to draw attention to them? Is that something you've ever heard of, like coming out of Lockheed Skunk Works? They kept the SR-71 secret for, I don't know, decades. We don't ever know what the current generation of advanced fighters are because they don't let us know. The whole point of maintaining a technological advantage over the enemy is not letting them know what you have so they don't see it coming. You don't fly it over your neighborhood Walmart so that everybody in the parking lot can get a gander at it. It's just, there's so many pieces to this that individually you might be able to make some sense out of, but when you put them together, they don't fit. The puzzle pieces are like all to a different puzzle. If the federal government knows what these are, if they belong to a friend that is not the military, Lockheed, Northrop Grumman, Raytheon, some other contractor, there's no reason to not to say this is a training exercise. They do it all the time. I mean, the joke in Iron Man where, Rhodey's like, he finally discovers the Iron Man suit and Tony Stark's like, just tell him it was a training exercise. He's like, I can't say that. Next thing you know, he's at a podium saying it was a training exercise. Like, the joke is that's what the government says for everything. They are willing to play the CYA game all day with ridiculous cover stories, but they don't have a cover story. There is no cover story. There's nothing. They're just shrugging, saying, well, we don't know what it is. We're aware of it. The president's aware of it. The Pentagon's aware of it. Who freaking cares if you're aware of it? If my house is on fire, as one reporter said who was being interviewed by Ross Coulthart, I don't care if the fire department is aware of it. I need them to fight the fire. The residents are freaking out because these things are flying overhead every night. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know if they have malevolent intent. Are they surveying? Are they stealing data? Are they spreading biochemical agents? Are they radioactive? Nobody knows. Nobody knows. There was actually a guidance memo that was sent out to the fire departments in New Jersey that said, basically, treat this thing like it's going to explode, like it's radioactive, wear hazmat gear, stay outside of a radius of 330 feet, all this stuff. And it's like, well, where's that guidance coming from? Is that coming from inside the federal government? We don't know. Ross Coulthard also interviewed these guys who are some kind of, contractors who go off the coast near Long Island and study anomalies and UFOs and stuff and work with other intelligence agencies and kind of report back. I guess they have very expensive equipment that they've invested in, and they do these investigations and they report back. So they can't talk about what they've been contracted to do, but they did say that somebody within one of the government agencies gave them a list of 10 questions that the public should be asking the government about these drones. And the first question on the list, this is from some pissed off person inside an agency who is not happy about how this is being handled and saying the public needs to ask these questions, right? So somebody who probably knows something. First question, how do you know that the drones are human-made? And see, that's the thing that I keep coming back to. Now, I know I've been immersed for years in this world of UFO, UAP, government conspiracy to keep this quiet. I've been very immersed in it because people inside the government have come out and said that's exactly what's happening. Lou Elizondo, David Grush, Christopher Mellon, James Lukatsky, Eric Davis. There's any number of these guys who have worked on these programs, seen these programs. David Fravor, Ryan Graves, both Navy F-18 pilots. Alex Dietrich, like so many people, Chad Underwood, like these guys have all come out and they've all said, this stuff happens. We've seen it. Some of us have experienced it operationally. Some of us have experienced it as intelligence officers who are investigating what's going on the inside and then finding out that there are these black programs. Lou Elizondo sat in front of Congress and said that, the government has been doing anything and everything to cover up the fact that we are not alone in the cosmos. He just said that last month. This guy was in charge of hunting UFOs for the Pentagon. David Grush has said people have been killed to keep it a secret. Has been personally threatened, him and his wife, because he came forward. So when you're around these stories and the people are credible, they have a distinguished service records, they have nothing to gain, they're not making money, that would offset the loss of reputation, the risk of litigation, the risk of personal harm. It doesn't make sense to disbelieve them. And now there are a number of them. And they've all said, we have craft, we have bodies. This has been going on for the better part of a century, at least since World War II. Arguably since before. So with that in the back of your mind, when you look at this situation, you're like, okay, the local authorities don't know. Local law enforcement doesn't know. FBI says they don't know. The governor doesn't know. The collective governors and mayors of New Jersey, Pennsylvania, surrounding areas don't know. The White House says it doesn't know and then pretends like, well, since we don't know, there's nothing to see here. The Pentagon does something kind of similar, but they just basically like, it's not us. It's not anybody we know. The end. Like, that's it. There's no more exploration of the topic. What scenario explains this? Now, in my ridiculous thread about these drones on Twitter that had like 10,000 replies, but if I had to categorize the top 3 replies that I have gotten that are the most common, number 1 is, why isn't anybody shooting it down? I actually saw it tonight. There was somebody who tried. It just was a bad shot and it was too far away. But he was using tracer rounds. He was trying to take one out. But that's not a good thing. But this vigilantism is a direct result of the government not doing its job. Number 1 job, protect the citizenry. They're not doing it. Number 2 question is, or not question, I should say, but assertion is, the reason the government's not doing anything is because it's ours. Well, again, why would they deny it? Number 1, they don't test things over the areas where the public can easily film and photograph things because that ruins secrecy. But number 2, even if they had a good reason to do that, they would have a cover story that would make it make sense so that the people don't panic. But they have not provided one. And then the third thing that people are saying, it escapes me. It is, again, 1 a.m. There was one more thing, but it was these are ours. You know, these are, I don't know. I can't remember what it was. It doesn't matter. The point is that people don't believe the official story. But a lot of people are willing to believe, yeah, the government's lying to us, they're hoaxing us, they're faking an alien invasion so that they can use that instead of COVID. There's a lot of that kind of conspiracy theorism going around. But however people think about the government and how they expect it to act, that doesn't mean that is how it acts, and that isn't necessarily what it does. And the government and the military-industrial complex has sort of a standard operating procedure. Yes, they lie, but they usually misdirect. They usually provide a cover story that you can see right through, but they don't care because what are you going to do about it? But they put up the pretense of we have an explanation for this, and they're not doing that. And everybody on the ground wants to know, and the urgency and the sense of panic is growing. And the only people who can reassure them refuse to do so. So what is, put on your fiction writing hat, because that's the way I think about it, is if I'm writing a novel where this is the scenario that's going on, how do I get myself out of this plot corner that I'm in? How do I make it plausible? How do I suspend you, the audience's disbelief? And the only thing that I can think of that makes it work for me is that the government knows that this is non-human technology and that they have no power to interfere. There's nothing they can do. Whether it's because of an arrangement, an agreement, which, these have been rumored between the U.S. government and whatever they say, the whistleblowers say is visiting us here. I don't know what they are. Or because of a dictate. Like maybe they just told us, stay out of our way or we'll wipe you out. Who knows? Just, again, speculating. Or maybe they're not communicating at all, but we know what they are, and we know from previous experience that there's nothing we can do. Even these don't really satisfy me because, again, there could be a cover story, and I don't see one. But it just doesn't add up, in my opinion. What do you think?